Nation, welcome to another episode of the Raider Nation's Weekly Wire. With me, as always, is my brother, Chris from Protect the Shield, and from the Raider War Room. Chris, welcome to another episode, brother. Thank you for being here, as always, being our rock to lean on during the tough times and the good times. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Always enjoying my show with you, man. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, football season's here, man. You know, we did a lot of content during the off season. We had to find stuff to talk about. We actually got some real news, so it's exciting, So
Definitely.
I'm doing good, man. Let's rock out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm excited, man. We already got...
And you got the guns out, man. YouTube, you giving YouTube too much, man. You giving them too much.
No guns here, man. It's all old man flab. But no, man. I'm also really excited. I was excited to see our very first preseason game of the season. It was a lot of fun, even though obviously, it's not a real game, but it's still good to see Raider jerseys on a field.
Yeah.
That's still very exciting. Watching new players, watching our new coaching staff, working together, watching the Raider fans enjoy themselves. That's always a great time.
Yeah.
But anyway, this week for the Weekly Wire, I've been forgetting, and I apologize, forgetting to incorporate Chris's weekly word. Because everything that we're talking about is Chris's weekly word. If you guys haven't seen it from the beginning, we segment our considered Chris's weekly word. We get Chris's point of view on everything that's happening within the Raider organization and the Raider Nation. Again, these are his point of views, my point of views. Nothing to be taken as a sacred writing or anything. We're just giving our perspective. Chris is giving his perspective, and that's what we call it, Chris's weekly word. So in this week of Chris's weekly word, we have our player pickups. We pick up a few. We picked up a few players. We also have a joint practice training camp with the Niners. We're going to review the preseason game 1 against the Seahawks, the good, the bad, and what we concluded from the game. We're going to be talking about bird is a word, if you know what I mean. What how Geno said hello to his old team. Are we jumping on the cam tram? We're going to see about that as well. And then also we're going to be reviewing the expectations we will have for preseason game 2 against the Niners on Saturday. Well, for you guys, it was yesterday. So, we're going to be talking about that. So starting again with Chris's weekly word, our first topic is the player pickups. Chris, what do you know about the two players that were picked up, safety Terrell Edmonds and wide receiver Marquez Callaway?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start off with Edmonds. So Edmonds, he's safety. He spent a lot of his career with the Steelers. He was a guy that was drafted by the Steelers in the first round. So he was a guy, I actually liked him coming out of college. He was a guy that had a knack for the ball, but he has a lot of starting experience with the Steelers. He was a guy that and one thing about the Steelers, they don't miss too often on their draft. So, they're an organization that drafts well. And he was a solid player. He gave them a lot of, first team reps, first team snaps. One thing about him, he's a reliable guy. He's somebody that was durable. He didn't miss, too much time. So he's not a guy like with the injury bug. He's a guy that's kind of known more for being like a box safety, someone that can be in the box, a pretty good tackler, known for his tackling. But one thing about him that I like is his coverage against tight ends. For the longest time, the Raiders always get killed by tight ends. I mean, that's been the deal for decades. And we've always been looking for a guy that can help with that, whether it's Kelsey or Antonio Gates or, we can go on about tight ends has always killed us. So again, I think he's a depth piece. So I don't want people to think, we're bringing on like a starter or, someone that's going to, have a big contribution, but, he's going to be a depth piece, someone that's going to provide some stability and some leadership, back there in that room, and plus I know you always talk about depth, depth.
Yes.
And we usually don't have depth. And honestly, I still don't think we have depth. But, I think it's a pretty decent signing. I'm not going to say I'm super thrilled about it, but he is veteran leadership, a guy that can, again, be in the box, help out in that way and really help out with tight ends. We got the Kelseys of the world and stuff like that we got to worry about.
Yeah, no, I definitely I'm always concerned with depth within a particular position because of, our recent history. We would have great starters, but they 2, 3, 4 games in, they'd get hurt. Then what?
Right.
We'd start off strong, they'd be playing great, then what? And that's why my concern is always that redundancy of having those players ready to go. Next man up.
Right.
So based on what you're saying, this guy is basically just, redundancy. He's not going to be like a starter, like, expect, the heavens to part and, Okay.
Yeah, but he's a guy. If someone went down for a couple days or for a couple weeks, he can be slotted in there and still provide some pretty good play.
And then obviously his leadership as well, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And he's big. He's been in big games. He's played in the playoffs and stuff like that. Stuff that a lot of our players haven't experienced.
Right.
So.
And then obviously coming from the Steelers, the Steelers are, like you mentioned, an organization that drafts well, but also they draft for defense mostly.
They draft well. They develop well. So absolutely.
Okay. Well, what about Marquez Callaway, wide receiver?
So Callaway, he's a guy that's he spent some years with the Saints. I mean, he's kind of a journeyman for the most part. He's a guy that I think is going to be a camp body. May not even make the team at the end of the day. I mean, he's a veteran. I'm not really. He'll probably have some special teams. Versatility. Maybe. I know when he was younger, he did some return kicks and stuff like that.
Right.
He is known for his work ethic. Just being a hard worker. Being a grinder, stuff like that. But yeah, if you look at his production, he's never really had any years that were really kind of worth mentioning. I think his best season was in 2021. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns, 700 yards. That's kind of the best he's shown, during the Saints. But yeah, he's a depth guy.
He's more of a competition piece for training.
He'll be a guy that just kind of pushing for a spot. I don't see him necessarily making a team, to be quite honest, but he's going to be a guy that kind of pushes some of these rookies, Bachman, I think he kind of got tweaked a little bit in the last playoff or in the last preseason game. So I'm not sure how well he's feeling, but just a guy that's going to be out there, just kind of pushing everyone, just bringing competition, stuff like that. But again, I don't see him being too much of a factor, for the season.
So basically, these 2 pickups are nothing to be overly excited about. Just obviously more competition for our existing players.
Yeah.
With a small possibility of actually even making the team.
Yeah. It's just something like that. I mean, these are 2 hardworking guys, 2 good locker room guys, 2 guys that, are going to be a good example for, some young players, because we have a very young safety room, where there's Palomau, what's his name? Trey Taylor and, Chris Smith the third, so we have young guys back there. So being able to have a older veteran, I mean, we do have, but even him, he's not super old, but having a guy in there that has a lot of starting experience is good. And even Callaway, we got Jacoby, which is, he's a good vet, but we got Besh and Thornton, and we got a lot of young guys who just don't have a lot of NFL experience. So whenever you get a guys that have played, some big time games, it's always a good thing.
Okay. All right, Raider Nation. Well, these are 2 guys that have joined the team, at least for now. Let's see what they can do. Hopefully, if they don't make the team, that they at least propel our players to play better.
Right, for sure.
Our next topic is a joint training camp this week with none other than well, not anymore, but at the time, our Cross Bay rivals, the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
What have you heard so far, Chris? Because I was watching the press conference, and, press conferences are always full of fluff. Oh, it's great.
Sure.
Oh, it's awesome. Oh, it's good. What have you heard other than, what's out there?
Yeah, no, for sure. I try to make sure I listen. I was looking at a lot of, of Twitter feeds and stuff like that, just getting kind of updates on reporters that were there. on the Raider side, the Raider, beat writers and all them.
Right.
But I was also tuned in to some of the 49ers writers as well, because they kind of offered a different perspective, which was, interesting. But, for one, there was a lot of 49ers that did not even participate. They were injured, so you like the Nick Bosa's and stuff like that, they didn't even suit up. So, but some of the stuff that I did hear, Geno at times looked pretty good. The stuff in like the red zone specifically, they were scoring touchdowns. I think, Bauer scored. Genty broke off a nice run, so Genty looked pretty good from what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Catching the ball as well. He looked good. Trey Tucker was getting open. He was getting open, but he had a couple bad drops. He did have some good catches, though. I think a couple touchdowns as well. But probably
let me ask you this, Chris. Tucker, were they, obviously, because he's known for his speed. But was it the long passes? Was it
it was like long passes, like crossers. So it was he was getting open, winning his battle.
But basically utilizing the speed.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was doing good with that. But probably the biggest thing that I liked hearing was our offensive line didn't look that bad. They said the offensive line looked pretty good. However, like I said, there was a lot of the 49ers starters that weren't participating.
Right.
They didn't have, like, imagine our defensive line going against someone without Max Crosby and Kuntz and all that, so it would look a little different. But, I think all in all, I think it seemed like it was pretty productive, from what I hear. I know the corners, I heard that our DBs didn't fare too well. I know Kittles was getting busy. And I think our DBs were struggling a little bit. So, but a lot of times in practice, if you don't have everyone on the field, the DBs are always at a disadvantage anyway. So like if you're just like on sevens or whatever you're doing, the DBs always have, kind of the disadvantage in those situations. So if you don't have a pass rush coming and ways to get the quarterback kind of off their mark and uncomfortable, you're going to have, the defense kind of struggling a little bit. So I wasn't too surprised about that. But when they're doing full team, I would expect them to do a lot better.
Right. And now let me ask you, did you hear about any fights or any scuffles or anything? Because usually when there's joint practices, somebody always gets heated.
Yeah. Surprisingly, they didn't. And I think, honestly, and that goes a lot to like Coach Carroll, because I know one thing about Coach, he's, in the past, he's been hesitant about, joint practices. I mean, he's done them some in, in the Seahawks, but he's kind of like how Gruden is. It's like, if we're going to do these, let's make them productive for both teams. Let's not do all this stupid stuff and fighting and all. Like, let's be productive. Let's try to get the most out of it for both organizations, and let's be professionals. And it sounded like they did well with that. No cheap shots, no late hits, and and I don't think they were really taking people to the ground. Like full live tackling, I don't think so. Cause a lot of times that's when the issue is, when you're doing the live tackling, taking guys to the ground or hitting guys.
Hit a little too hard, and
stuff like that. But they call it, they call it thud. Thud is kind of like, when you're wrapping up. It's like you go for the tackle, wrap them up, but you keep them up. So that's like the thud tempo. So they do a lot of that stuff. But usually when the fight start is, you're supposed to do thud, but, you're hitting the guy and taking him to the ground. And then, that's when the little fight starts. So it sounds like they were very professional and got a lot of work done today. So salute to both teams.
Hell yeah, man. That's really good to hear. They're getting down to business. Yeah. Especially after, last week's showing. For sure. They're actually getting out there and doing what they need to be done by the team. Commending the 49ers as well, because they're coming into a hot ass training facility, in Las Vegas, and being able to keep their cool, both on the field and mentally playing against an opposing team. Right. So I'm glad to hear that everything's going well. Well, not everything, but that the practice between both teams is going well.
Yeah, for sure.
How many more days do they have a practice? Was it just today?
Yeah, I think
Or Thursday?
they decided just to do one joint practice, which kind of sucks because usually, teams will do a couple. But yeah, they decided just to do one.
Okay. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you guys want to check out more, I'm pretty sure, is a War Room covering anything on the joint practice or?
Not really, because again, we're not going live again until Sunday. So,
right.
so we'll probably just kind of discuss the second preseason game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for our joint practice with the 49ers. Next, we're going to review preseason game 1, which just to clarify, at least in my point of view, this was the very first game of our new coach, a lot of new players, new offensive scheme. Defense, I can't speak to it. Vanilla play calling, and it was in Seattle. So, there was a lot of things that at least I took into consideration when seeing these guys play, even though there's no excuse because they are professionals.
Yeah.
And they are getting paid the big bucks to do what they need to do. But, there's some aspects that, kind of made me not feel so bad about the game. But as far as the game, we're going to cover 3 different things: the good, the bad, and then the conclusion of what Chris and myself thought of this game. Because there was more bad than good, we're going to start off with the bad. Right. So, Chris, what did you see as far as bad things that the Raiders did on that field? Because obviously there were different facets of different players on the field. Like I think it was the first drive was the starters, and then what is it? The rest of the first quarter and beyond, they started switching out.
Yeah.
What you got on that?
Yeah, so we broke down the film a couple days ago in the War Room. So, we did see a lot of stuff that was concerning. I think on the offensive line definitely looked concerning, especially some of the young guys, like the Caleb Rogers and, Charles Grant, things like that. But to be honest, and I hate to say it, but, when you really look at the details and when you watch JPJ, he did not look that good at guard. Again, and I'm a big JPJ fan. Meredith, he looked decent, but he didn't look comfortable. Basically, the offensive line didn't look good. They didn't look like a cohesive unit, and that's one thing about the line, and that's why I'm concerned going into week 1 because if we look bad during this second preseason game and then they start switching stuff up again, it's going to be tough going into week 1 because those guys got to gel. They got to get together,
right.
Being able to make calls and be able to trust what you're seeing and, be able to pass people off and go into the next. Like there's a lot into, being an offensive lineman that, unless you played it or kind of really been out there to know, it's more than just blocking the guy in front of you. It's a lot of communication, and just one kink in the armor can mess it up for everyone.
And see, I was going to ask you about this, Chris, because do you think that all the movements that's been going on with the offensive line, do you think, is that like a big reason why they're probably not gelling because they're moving players around?
It could be because, you have Jordan Meredith, who's never been a center before, playing this. And you got to remember, the center is like the quarterback of the offensive line. They're the one that's, got to be able to recognize, defensive fronts and got to be able to call things out and all that. And then you got JPJ, he played some guard in college, but he played a little bit of guard last year, but his position is a center. He's a natural center. So, and not only are you putting him at guard, you're putting him at the other guard, not even the one that he was at last year.
Right.
So it's almost like, you got him playing a brand new position. And then you got.
Do you have any theories on why they're doing that?
There's things that's being said, but I think it's, it's just a lot of people's opinion. I know Richie Incognito came out today, kind of spoke on it a little bit about, why he thinks it's happening. Basically saying that, all summer JPJ wasn't studying, so he was having trouble, making calls and things like that. And Jordan Meredith has really been studying and he's, kind of grasping it a little better. I call BS on that.
Right.
Because you don't go from being the best center in the country, in college, and then show a lot of upside in the NFL, right. And then all of a sudden you just forgot how to, recognize defensive fronts and calls and things like that. I understand it's a different offensive coordinator, a different offensive line coach, but
I know.
I'm not buying that. Richie is Richie. So,
Right.
he's closer to the organization than me, but to me it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Yeah, because I saw JPJ at Max Crosby's youth football camp.
Yeah,
and he looked way different than last year, man. He was actually like, he slimmed down. He looked a lot stronger.
Yeah,
So to me, that doesn't show that he's kind of just like,
No, he's been spending a lot of time with Max in the offseason. Like you can tell he wants to get after it, and that's who he is anyway. He's always been a guy that, the way he plays, he's always trying to get after it. He wants contact. He has a high motor to be that big. For me, him not putting all into his craft, it's hard for me to believe. He's a smart kid, someone that takes football very seriously. Richie can say what he wants, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that, after last week's, I guess, exhibition, that they get it down, man. Because, I know a lot of the Raider Nation got really worried. They started panicking. Some people that had the Raiders winning 10 games, now they're like 6-7 games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's the first game. It's the first time that they're truly out there. So let's wait. Let's wait and see. But I'm like, we always say, we don't drink that Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm waiting for the negativity to start showing its ugly head, and I'm hoping that by game 2, which was for you guys yesterday, they showed us that, they definitely changed that and they fixed those issues.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need to. So any other negatives? Because obviously the offensive line, Genty obviously didn't do well, but that could also constitute because of the offensive line.
Yeah,
right?
It's hard to evaluate him when he just doesn't have any room to kind of do anything. So, and that's what's unfortunate when you get a guy that's 6 overall,
right?
When you don't necessarily have the pieces to get the most out of him.
Yeah, a lot of his progress depends on the offensive line opening those lanes.
It does. And one of the good things about Josh Jacobs was, he was able to kind of make it happen without a line. Like, he was able to make guys miss. He was very elusive in his own way. He wasn't like a burner, but he was elusive enough to get guys off him. And I'm hoping Genty can do that, because he's not going to be a home run hitter. He's not going to be a guy that's breaking 80-yard runs and stuff like that. Right. But, if he can consistently, make those 20-yard runs, 15, in that range, kind of how Jacobs was, we may have something. But without that line, without those guys in the trenches, doing what they're supposed to do, all cohesive, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is. But I'm hoping, because it's preseason, vanilla play calling, they're not playing to their full potential.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we don't have a direct bat phone to Pete Carroll, find out what's going on.
Right.
We just kind of come to conclusion based on what we see and what we hear from news reporters and whatnot.
Right.
Okay, so any other bad news from that?
Oh yeah,
okay.
How much time you got, man? I hope you're not rushing me, because we got more. Trust me.
Not at all, because I know we've just covered the running back in the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm about to say, we're not even close, man. Aiden O'Connell, everything you saw from him, he didn't look good, and the thing with Aiden that gets me is it was bad decisions more than anything. So,
like that ball he chucked for the interception, the first one.
Yeah. Like,
what the hell was that?
For one, you can't throw that ball late, because you're throwing to a guy that runs a 4.3, and if you throw it late, how much ground that kid goes when he goes downfield, you got to know your arm limitations. You don't have the arm to get that out there. You don't have that old school Randall Cunningham arm, or you can't just you don't have that Elway arm where you can just bomb that thing out there. So yeah, and he threw it late, so that was bad. And then the other interception that he had, it was just a bad read. I think him and the receiver just weren't on the same page. The receiver read the defense, and the defense was a zone, so the receiver knew, you're running your route, you turn around, you find the hole in the zone. If it was a man-to-man, the receiver would have known to, go and do it out. Yeah. Aiden thought he was going to do an out, so that's where he threw it. And the receiver, he stayed put and found a hole in the zone. So that was on Aiden. He he read the coverage wrong, and that's kind of what happened. And again, for a guy that doesn't bring that much from a mobile standpoint, you want him to be cerebral,
Right.
like that has to be your superpower. If you can't do it with some of your physical gifts, be how like Brady was. Brady didn't have all the physical gifts, but he was cerebral. If you can't be cerebral and you don't have the physical gifts, and it's a double whammy. So, we got to figure it out.
It is. Yeah, man. I saw his play, man, and I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed because I was expecting more from him.
A lot of people were.
First game, I totally understand that aspect, but still, he's been there. He's a quarterback. He's considered a professional. He should know how to read plays, read players, read formations.
Yeah.
But yet he just said, fuck it, let me just throw the ball, see what happens. He did a Brett Favre. Just kind of like threw it up there, but didn't have the arm strength. And not just one interception, but 2 interceptions.
It was bad.
Even though after, what was it? It was in the beginning of the third quarter.
Yeah, he started cooking a little bit.
Yeah,
he
did better.
Yeah.
But it had already left a bad taste in our mouths of watching, those initial plays.
Right.
And it's kind of like somebody cheating on somebody else and then coming back with flowers and saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We still remember, buddy.
Too late.
Still remember.
Yeah. It's too late. But, so he didn't fare very well.
No.
I'm hoping he could switch it up because, as soon as that happened, all throughout the week, AOC on the way out, AOC going to be traded, AOC this. And
you know how our fan base is, they're so fickle. Those guys that are saying that, some of those were the same guys that saying that it was a quarterback battle, and he might,
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? So it's
That's
like,
right.
it's, our fans will turn on you real quickly. So
yeah. But yeah, man, so he was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Who else was bad?
Let's see. So I've only got to the offense. I will say that I won't say he was bad, but I was expecting more from Jack Besh. I didn't see a whole bunch of separation being created by him.
Right.
I know he's more of a physical receiver. So I'm gonna hold off on him. I'm gonna stall him out a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna stall him out. He's still kind of learning. But if I flip it and go to the other side of the ball, we did a lot of film study.
Yes.
Tyree Wilson, man, just did not look good. And the thing is like a lot of the plays we're actually trying to look at other players, whether it was some of the linebackers or interior linemen, but it was like he always stuck out as someone that was just, not giving effort.
He seemed out of place in a lot of those plays.
Yeah, I mean, out of place, but it's just like you don't see no progression really. Like people will try to tell you that he looked better just because he made a couple tackles, but it was like if you really watch it, I mean, I don't see no progression because the thing is when you watch him out there, he doesn't like flash. Like for someone that's a number 7 pick overall, if you're playing around other like second and third stringers, you need to flash.
Hell yeah.
Like imagine like how Jalen Carter, like imagine if he played with second and third string, like he would just dominate. But it was like Tyree just looked like he fit there. Like he was just one of the guys out there with the second and third string. You shouldn't be that if you're the number, if you're that guy. We picked you up to be a difference maker. And he's just not. He's just not a difference maker. He still has just the limited moves. He doesn't have like a backup move. Like it's like he doesn't rush with a plan. And you're not going to get far in the NFL without a plan.
Yeah, and then one of the plays that you guys dissected on the War Room was his one that he had like a horrible stance.
Oh, yeah.
How the hell was he going to get up and out the way he stood? It seemed like he was taking a shit.
Well, because it honestly is laziness. Because what he was going to do, he was doing a stunt. So, like, when you do a stunt, you're basically, like, going around the guy, next to you. So, like, you're not necessarily going forward. So, it's like your first move is kind of, so, like, instead of, and the thing is, good offensive linemen, they pick up on little keys like that.
Yes. Yeah, 805 was explaining that.
Yeah. They pick up on keys, and I mean, and it goes. I mean, you pick up keys on almost any position. Like if you talk to like Deion Sanders, like he'll tell you when Michael Irvin put his hands up like this, it's going to be a run. Right. Or when he puts up like little stuff, like they look like if you have 1 foot back, like, or if you're standing up, like everything. I mean, corners, like you can tell sometimes how their stance are. Oh, he's in zone. This guy's in man. So it's like those little things. But like us as fans could look at Tyree and say, oh, he's not about to go balls to the wall. Like he's not going straight. Right. You can tell and then like the next play, he's in a whole different stance, and you can tell. So
there's no continuity.
Exactly. So therefore,
he's basically showing his cards.
Showing his cards, and to me that goes to laziness, man. It goes to laziness. Get in your position. You know, it should almost look the same. You know, for the most part. You know, you want it to be. You don't want to be able to show your hand like that. So I don't know, man. It's
explain this to me, Kristen. Since you played ball, you know, and I know that playing ball at a high level, even like with you at a collegiate level, you know, it's not something that you take lightly. It's not something that's given to you. You have to earn it, and it's more of a luxury being able to be out on the field.
Yeah.
Can you explain why individuals like him act that way? Like knowing that they have the opportunity of a lifetime, that they can obviously. It's already life-changing, but it could change their lives even more if they just put an effort to what they're doing.
Well, I mean, I think it's different for everybody. So, you know, it could be one, like, he may just not love ball like that. You know, like, it's just one thing that he was just kind of always bigger than everyone.
Right.
So, you know, he has a physique to be that. So, you know, he just maybe never had to work because he was always better than people, you know, when he was younger. Whereas like someone on the flip side, like a Max Crosby, you know, he was kind of a smaller guy, and he had to, for him to get to be competitive, like he had to work his butt off, you know? And it's almost kind of like the Kobe, you know, like when you think of Kobe, and you know, Kobe was very good, but what made Kobe so great was his work ethic. Like he refused to let someone beat him. Whereas like my favorite player, I was always an Allen Iverson player. Loved Allen Iverson. Yeah, and I think like from a pure like skill level, I think Allen Iverson was more skilled than Kobe. But Allen Iverson, practice? We talking about practice? You know, he was known for that. Like practice, like, you know, AI just had those physical gifts, and a lot of times it was good enough. Whereas Kobe, he had the physical gifts, but he was obsessed with being great.
Yes.
So that made him different. And I think that's like the difference between like the Max and other guys that are great. And someone like Tyree, he probably just doesn't love ball like that. Like he doesn't eat, sleep, you know, ball. And, you know, he'll go as far as it can go. He probably already feels like, you know, he's probably already happy with what, you know, hey, I got drafted, you know, I made it to the NFL. Like he probably checked all his boxes, man. You know,
so he's just happy to be there and
happy,
you know,
and again, and I'm not saying that's the case because I don't know the kid, but it's just from a fan, that's what you like. Because if he like was obsessed with being great, you have the perfect mentor right next to you.
Yes,
like I would have been Max's shadow. We play the same position. I would have been his shadow,
and that's the part that really confuses me. Is you have one of the best in the game as a teammate.
As a teammate.
That you can learn from, even if he hates your guts, just by being in the same room with him, you could learn so much. But yet he doesn't.
You know how much that Aaron Rodgers learned from Brett Favre, and they wasn't really friends. But the thing is,
he hated his ass.
Yeah, like it. But the thing is, just being in that room, you see how Brett prepares. You see how he practices. You see how, you know, how he looks at things and how serious. Like you got to take that. You got to take it, and it's just like, again, we're only fans, so we don't know everything that's going on.
Right.
But man, it's like you have the ultimate. I mean, coaches rave about Max's work ethic and the way he prepared. They rave about it. If nothing else, I'm going to be the second hardest working player in the team. Like, you know, if nothing else, I'm going to be high on effort. And he doesn't even give us that. He half-asses stuff. It just pisses me off.
It is sad to say, but I'm getting Jamarcus Russell vibes from him. Where he's kind of like,
yeah, you know, I get what you're saying, but Jamarcus was that was a whole different level.
Oh,
yeah. No, I
but
get
you
it.
know, just like the effort put forth after making the team.
Yeah, you just don't. Yeah, you could tell.
You know, it's like whatever. You know,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm gonna do what I can, no more, and that's it.
Yeah, some people just love ball. Some people are overachievers, and some people are just like, hey, I made it to the NFL. I'm able to buy my mom a new house. You know, hey, I've done a lot, you know. And there's some people that are like, no, I'm obsessed with being one of the greatest ever.
Right.
You know, so it's a mindset. And again, I don't know the kid, so it's just Chris speculating, but that's what I see.
That's it. That's all we ask, man. It's just your point of view, what you see, just like what I see of him. You know, it is what it is, and it's sad to see.
Right, for sure.
But, you know,
for sure.
So bring it, man. What else you got?
Man, okay. You know, let's see who did anyone else really just like kind of look bad?
I know there was a lot of like missed tackles based on
there was some missed tackles, you know, from linebackers and corners. Right. But again, it was kind of sprinkled. So, you know, but I would say from a defensive standpoint, right? From a defensive standpoint, I was just more disappointed because they weren't making plays against the backup offense.
That's right.
The starting defense is letting the backup offense go down there and score, and they almost scored another time, but luckily we got an intercept. Well, I ain't gonna say luckily because he made a hell of a play, but
he did.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm gonna put the whole defense. Like they a lot of them even Max looked a little lackadaisical. Malcolm Kuntz, he didn't have that same fire that he usually does. You know, and
but as you guys mentioned, as far as Kuntz, do you think he's maybe just kind of warming up, being that he's coming away from that injury?
Could be. I know 805. 805 was kind of a big advocate of saying that a lot of the guys were just playing to not get hurt.
Right.
And I gotta respectfully disagree. Just because a lot of players got pride, man. And, you know, you never want to put bad plays on film. Like, film lasts forever. You know, you don't know if you're, you know, maybe something happens, you fall down the depth chart. Like, you don't want to have bad reps on film. You just don't. You know, all these guys are playing for a position. You know, unless you're Max Crosby, anybody can be upgraded, you know? So it's like the thought of just kind of like half-assing it so I don't get hurt. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a tough sell for me.
Right. So the whole defense.
Yeah. And I'll stop there. Okay. You know, I don't want to go all day about that.
Well,
I want to talk a little positive.
There's one more negative I do want to talk about, and that's Carlson, our kicker.
Yeah.
He missed 2 field goals. Yeah. Obviously, one wasn't technically his fault because he was rushed out there.
Yeah.
But I'm getting this feeling of him being hot and cold.
Yeah. And honestly, last year he was a little up and down. Like last year, it's not like he was. I feel like the year before he was kind of automatic, but even last year he missed some big kicks, man. So you're right,
because he definitely made some big kicks on that first game.
Yeah,
but then other kicks where you were like, okay, here it comes.
Yeah,
and they wham.
Yeah,
so it just kind of worried me, especially since he's looking to get a contract extension.
Yeah.
You know, this is not the time to be, you know,
to be missing anything.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, that was my only other concern. Okay, since that's all we're going to cover as far as the bad, tell us about the good, because I don't recollect much of it.
You know, there was a couple players that you know, stood out. I think our converted linebacker, Jamal Adams, he looked good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he was flying all over. You can tell he was playing with a chip on his shoulder. It's his first time playing linebacker. You know, there was a couple plays that he was off a little bit. But overall, I like what I saw in him. You know, I like what I saw in our quarterback, you know, Cam Miller. You know, he came in, showed good poise, ran the offense pretty well, came back. I like what I saw. When we drafted him, I wasn't too you know, excited about it. You know, I thought there were some other guys that was still on a board that I would have rather have. But, you know, he looked pretty good for what he did. Let's see, who else? I'd probably say I like what I saw from Adam Butler. I don't know if I already mentioned him. Adam Butler.
No, not yet.
Yeah, he play. I mean, he always plays hard. So the guy that we actually traded Jacorian Bennett for, Thomas Booker. He has some nice reps. Yes, one thing that I saw from him that I liked, he has a he has a motor. He's one of those guys that's hustling to the ball. You know, if he's on the other side of the field and the running back's on the other side of the field, he's hustling to chase them down, you know. So I love seeing guys like that, you know, whether they're good or bad. You know, I like those high energy, high effort, high motor guys, and he proved to be that. So I would say those are probably the ones that probably caught my eyes. Like, you know, I like what I saw. Oh, Dylan Labe.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he played pretty well. You know, I think
did.
he was playing with a chip on his shoulder. He had something to prove. So it was
especially because he's so far down on the
he's
depth chart as far as
for sure
running backs. But yeah, so like for Olave, more than likely, if he does make the team or stay with the team, he'd be special teams, correct?
Yeah, more than likely. But even special teams is pretty competitive. I mean, you know, they had Zamir White returning kicks, you know, and, you know, Bachman. And so I don't even know, man. I really don't know what's going to happen to Olave. You know, he might be a guy they may try to, you know, stash on a practice squad. I don't know. You know, maybe if he has a couple more good games, he can get some serious looks. But he did play good though. So, you know, I was glad to see that. There was a lot of hype about him last year, so it was good to see him kind of be able to, you know, put some good film together.
And that's as far as the good, huh?
Oh, I got for you, man.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't want to look too deep into it because again, it was the first game.
Yeah.
You know, it was in Seattle. It was loud.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a lot of variables to take into consideration, but you still don't want to see your team do bad no matter what. Even though they tied, you know, it's still, you know, you want to win. You want to see, even if they would have lost, if they would have showed more effort, if they would have showed more to us to say like, okay, yeah, they
you
lost,
can digest it a little better.
They are out there.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it is what it is. So in conclusion, Chris, what do you think we need to do as far as, let's say, on the offense first and then the defense to better this team? Pray?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's, you know, I think that, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, for us to really have a chance this year, and I've been saying it a lot, we're only going to go as far as the development of our year 2 and year 3 guys. You know, so I'm talking about like Brock Bowers, as great as he played, he's going to have to take it up another notch. You know, JPJ, he's going to have to take it up another. Like those guys that we had a good draft class last year.
Yes.
Those guys are going, in year 2, they're going to have to take that step up. Glaze is going to have to take a step up. And that's one thing about the Raiders. We've always had trouble developing our players. Like over the past, you know, few decades, there's only a couple that's really kind of developed, you know, but that's why most of them don't get a second contract because they develop or we make bad decisions. But
doesn't that also fall into... Doesn't it fall into, you know, the revolving door of coaches?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, there's barely any continuity.
Right.
You know, so it's like trying to learn something every year, you know, because each coach has, you know, a different thing that they like. Yeah, so that is one piece. But plus, we just don't develop players like the Eagles. For one, the Eagles, they draft well, but then they develop well. To me, one of the best teams that develop their talent is the Steelers. You know, I feel like the Steelers always have that next man up. So if they do need to get rid of someone, they always have that next guy up who they drafted that's slowly getting better in the background, and then they're finally ready. So
Patriots used to be the same way.
Who?
Patriots?
Oh, absolutely.
Back in the day?
Absolutely. Yeah, they develop people, man. So, and that's what the good teams do. But yeah, we're going to have to develop those year 2, year 3 guys, like the Trey Tuckers, like the time is now, buddy. Michael Mayer, the time is now.
Yep.
Who else? Like I said, Brock Bowers, yeah, JPJ, Trey Tucker. Yeah, like that whole little nucleus. Glaze, you know, DJ Glaze, like guys like that, it's time. The time is now. Dylan Labe, the time is now. Let's go. Zamir White, the time is now. Go win that, you know, go win that second string running back spot, you know. You know, the time's now.
All right. Well, let's hope that by the time this video comes out that we did get that W against the 49ers and that our players showed that, you know, they made some positive changes. So as far as the first preseason game, you know, that's all we got for you guys. Our next topic is going to be the bird is the word.
Oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. But birds are word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. But birds are word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. But birds are word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. But birds are word.
This one right here. If you guys obviously have seen or heard on social media or in the news, Geno Smith was received at the Hawks Stadium by a sign that said who was the biggest flop, either him or Jamarcus Russell. And obviously he didn't appreciate that, so he showed exactly how he felt by giving that individual the bird. And just like a true teammate, Max Crosby decided to say, you know what, here you go.
Right back at you.
To me, I think that even though, it's frowned upon by the NFL, it's not looked very, very good to be a professional player and show your emotions like that. But you know what? Sometimes it's well-deserved. Yeah. And I think this time was definitely well-deserved, because even Coach Carroll, when they asked him about it, they asked, hey, Coach, what do you think about this? Like, did you read the sign? Like, yeah. All right, there you go. So I thought in that aspect, Coach did a great job. Max did a great job supporting his quarterback. And you know what? Geno showed how he felt. And rightfully so. Do you see any bad or good from this situation, Chris?
I mean, to me, it is what it is, man. Like, I have no problems with it. I'm a guy that's all about matching energy, like as long as you're not being disrespectful and throwing stuff at fans and fans throwing stuff at them. Hey, if you want to talk trash, talk trash, throwing the bird. Hey, this, we're all men out here, and it's all fun and games,
Par for the course.
Yeah, and honestly, on the field, and honestly, like, he flipped them off, but you go to games all the time. You hear what some of the fans yell at these players and all that. Hey, your mama this, I'm going to do this to your girlfriend. Like, they go crazy with all that stuff. So, I had no problem with it. I love that, Max was right there with him. And I love that Pete Carroll had his players back. I'm good with it. And plus, we're the Raiders. We're not going to be the most polished organization.
Right.
We're the team that Matt Millen and all them guys we handle things the way we handle things. So
yes, sir.
I'm not mad at it at all, because we know someone like Derek Carr wouldn't have done that. He
probably would have said,
"I pray for you." Yeah. So it's like sometimes it's okay to match the energy that you're giving.
That's right. And then it turns out that this individual is also known for being a big time heckler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
they got to make the sign. So it's
match the energy.
Yeah, there you go. All right, next topic. Are we jumping on the Cam tram? Because he did look pretty good for, what was it? Played the fourth quarter towards the end. He threw some great. What do you got on Cam, man?
No, I mean, he looked pretty good. Got to watch him some more, but I mean, I'm definitely not jumping on the train, because I mean, a lot of times these quarterbacks that come in late in the preseason games, they usually do pretty well, at least for the most part. We saw it last year with Carter Bradley. We saw it the year before with Aiden. There's so many times that we've seen, quarterbacks look good in preseason. They get out there with some real defenders. The whole thing looks different.
Right.
But the thing is, he was a seventh round pick or whatever. I'm interested to see what the kid got. I hope he continues to develop. That's the hardest position in the NFL, probably hardest position in all the sports. So we gotta let's give the kid some grace, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
Now if he comes out here and cooks, or whenever the game is, that'll be nice to see. And I mean, let him stack some games up, and let him push AOC out of that quarterback 2 position, and then we can start talking like, okay, this kid got a little something to him. So, but yeah, me, I'm not drinking any more Kool-Aid about anybody. I got us winning about 6 games this year, so I'm not drinking no Kool-Aid.
Yeah, because I've been seeing a lot of news reports, a lot of social media posts that AOC lost his spot already.
Yeah,
after watching Cam play, the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
and I'm like, man, relax. It's just one game. You know,
but honestly, I do think he has ability to take his spot. You know, just like I said, you know, because Cam can move. You know, he brings something to the table. Whereas Aiden, if you're not going to be super cerebral, and it's not like you have top tier arm talent, and you can't really move, it's like, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing? So,
but is this based on what you saw game one, or just out of also practices, training camp, and everything?
Well, I mean, it's just with Aiden. I mean, I'm just not a big believer in him as far as like what his skill set is. I mean, I'm not. You know, he'll always be, you know, a backup quarterback. But I just think
it's more based on the negatives of AOC than the positives of Cam.
Probably.
Because he's not.
I just think that at least Cam has something where it's like he has some athletic ability. You know, again, I don't know how well he's going to be able to diagnose, you know, defenses and things like that. That's still something that we have to see. But, you know, a kid that, you know, he's cool under pressure. He has poise. And again, a guy that can move, so he can do, you could do a little bit more things with him. You know, again, his arm talent, you know, we still got to see. But, you know, honestly, I think we've seen the ceiling of AOC. You know, I think because, again, if he was super cerebral and had like a big time arm, then it's like, okay, you know, let's be patient.
We don't see it.
You know, he's kind of average in a lot of categories. Like, I'm not gonna say he's trash. He's not trash, but he's just an average guy. There's nothing about him that like gets me excited. Like, okay, he's a guy that I can really see lead the team. You know, So
yeah, because he's had his moments.
Yeah,
you know, nothing elite.
Exactly.
Definitely nothing elite. All right, well, Cam, show us more. We want to see it.
We'll see it, man.
Definitely need it. You know. All right, and finally, preseason game 2. Obviously, by the time you guys watch this video, the game had already been played. But Chris, give us your expectations on what was to be expected of this game from our team.
So for one, I think you know, the team came out flat week 1. I'm expecting them to come out more fired up. I imagine the team watched a lot of film. Those players had to, again, you put these reps on film, you're going to watch it all week in practice. You're going over every single rep. These coaches are dissecting every single rep. Those guys aren't going to want to put some bad reps out there, you know. So whatever it was week 1, I expect them to be more up-tempo, ready to rock. The starters are playing again, you know, so all the starters will participate in this preseason game. So that's going to be good.
Do you know if they're going to get more reps this time?
Hopefully. I imagine they will, because I know a lot of times teams won't play any starters on that third game, you know. So, you know, we might get a whole quarter, you know. And that'd be nice. That'd be nice, because I think we need it, because everything that I'm hearing from that Patriots training camp, they're getting after it. Those guys are getting after it. They look good in their first preseason game. Mike Vrabel he's a fiery guy. He's going to have the defense ready. And then Josh McDaniels, you know, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to have this game circled. Like, I want to put it to these guys. So we got to get ready for week 1, man. We got to. So get these guys some reps. Get these guys out there. Get that offensive line gelling. And so we can be, strongest offense as we can.
Yes, sir. You know, everything Chris said, I agree. One other thing, I definitely am hoping that based on all the film that they've been watching all week, that they actually puts a fire under their ass. You know, that shows, you know what? Let's not make the same mistakes in week 2 that we did in week 1. If they do, then I think we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think they want that, you know, so I'm expecting better play from both offense and defense, you know, and if they are going to get more reps, you know, they're going to get to practice more together, and hopefully they'll gel a lot better for game 1 of the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, Chris, is there anything else you want to add as far as what the topics that we covered?
No, I mean, I think we really knocked out a lot of it, man. You know, again, I'm just excited that we got, you know, real substance to talk about, you know, so it's not a whole bunch of speculation. You know, we're going to start seeing some cuts here pretty soon. So, you know, we're probably going to start seeing a lot of Raider content about, hey, who's going to make the roster, who's going to get cut and stuff like that. So it's definitely an interesting time, you know, to be a Raider fan. And, you know, the coach is going to have some tough decisions. There's going to be some guys that some of us like that aren't going to make the cut. So we're going to see. But that, again, that's why these reps matter. You know, if Pete is all about competition, like you say he is, you can't be taken off on preseason.
Right. All right, Raider Nation, that concludes Chris's weekly word. This is the news of the week. Now, at this point, I want Chris, please let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on, and what you're bringing to the Raider Nation.
Yeah, man, definitely. You guys can reach me on Protect the Shield podcast. I go live a few times a week, but mostly with my brothers. I'm from the War Room. So, definitely you guys can hit me up specifically on YouTube. Make sure you guys, subscribe to me. Like, share, comment. We have good content. We really do. We are a collective that we all know football. We've all played football. 805 coached football for, many years.
Many years.
So we understand the game, so we try to bring something a little different. We do a lot of analyzing of the game film. We analyze plays, we analyze players, talk about things that we saw. So if you like stuff like that, like the details and things like that, but we also make it fun. We crack jokes. We're always having fun. So that definitely check me out, and I'm on all social media platforms. So, again, I post a lot of stuff, have a lot of takes, and, I don't know it all, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm always going to be authentic, and, that's just what it is. So, if you're looking for like the fluffy content, someone that's just going to kind of spoon feed you and just tell you what you want to hear, I'm not going to be the person for you. But if you want to hear, 100% authentic, whether we're doing good, I'm going to talk about it. Whether we're doing bad, I'm going to talk about it. So if you like that type of content, you came to the right place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So again, Raider Nation, like, subscribe, follow Chris for Protect the Shield. Social media platforms, everything is under here. Just go ahead and link up with him. If you guys want to have any questions, have any conversations, you wanna reach out to him, go for it, man. He is definitely open to dialogue. Also, we want to invite you guys, because of course the War Room and myself, we're going to be together for the home opener in Vegas. We're going to be having a meetup September 13th at Tap and Ash Cigar Lounge, or Social Club. We're going to be hanging out. Raider Nation is going to be in the house. A lot of content creators, booster clubs, and super fans are going to be in the house. So if you're going to go to that game, please join us. Flyers are on social media. Check us out. Also, Severe and I will be hosting a watch party the week before for Game 1. I believe it's September 7th, if I'm not mistaken, here in the city of Hawthorne at the Dank Crypto Bar. It's a small little venue. We just want to bring the Raider Nation together, hang out, watch the first game, and just have a good time. Bring that family together again for the season. We're gonna have some drink specials. Anybody wearing a Raider jersey gets $5 drafts. After every touchdown that the Raiders score, we're gonna be giving a free shots. Come on through. Yeah. It is gonna be an early game, so get ready to drink early.
Yeah.
Morning drinking. That shows your commitment. But yeah, so we have those two events, and also obviously join us here on a weekly basis at the Weekly Wire. Chris and myself will be giving you the latest news of the Raiders and the Raider Nation. Also, I got the Stogie Nation coming up. I'm just finished editing an episode that I recorded directly with the owner of Every Day is Cigar Day. It's a company based in Esteli, Nicaragua. He and I did this interview a few weeks back, but I'm just getting to it right now. It's going to be dropping pretty soon. Check it out. Check out how the process of starting a cigar company and the way that they work. Everything's going to be on there. It's a great interview. Also, I have a review with Legacy of the Shield. That's coming up as well. And then for Raider Nation Roll Call, I have, for the end of the month for Stogie Nation, I'm going to be interviewing and reviewing cigars by none other than the Violator. So that's coming up as well. And then for Raider Nation Roll Call, I got some guests popping up. Right now, we're just trying to solidify dates to do the interviews, but got a lot of content for you guys. Just all I ask is for you to like, subscribe, follow, and share, please.
Yep. Support is free, guys. Support is free.
Yeah, let the Raider Nation know. We're not asking for money. We're not asking for anything. Just support. Spread the word, because we're doing all this for the love of the Raider Nation, for the love of the Raiders, and the love of football. So, just all we ask for you is to support. And again, Raider Nation, thanks for being here. And remember that everything we do is for the nation, by the nation.
Raiders, let's go Raiders!